Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Square Circle Cafe. I am your hostess, JWO member Gladys. And with me, as always, from Hotlanta, here she is. Here is JC, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
And I think he's back in the okay because he's always okay. Here's Jeremy, everybody.
I am back in Oklahoma. Yes, I got back Tuesday morning.
How was the reunion?
It was good. I will say though that it ended up uh that week the Monday ended up being quite a long stretch because I got
Oh,
up at 5 a.m. on Monday and did not go to bed until about 1 p.m. on Tuesday because
oh,
my flight was 5 a.m. on Tuesday morning,
ooh.
which means for anybody that's traveled, you know that they advise you to get to the airport 2 hours early.
Oh,
Well,
yes.
Monday Night
Oh,
Football didn't end until 11 p.m.
ooh.
So, and I didn't get into my brother's house until midnight. So, yeah, sleep did not happen Monday night.
Yeah, I've done that before too. When I first flew down to Atlanta to visit JC, my flight was at 4:30, which meant I had to be at the airport by 2:30 in the morning. So,
Oh,
yeah, it's
yeah.
not fun.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's about as equivalent as Wade Barrett's commentary, so,
Oh,
gotta
boo.
Oh,
No, boo.
a double boo. We got a
there it
boo
is.
boo. All right. So, we'll have a very special guest on later. We're going to have the keeper of the JWO, Juggalo Wrestling Order, and that is the host of the VSW Podcast, Versace Stoner. He'll be joining us when it gets close to the 7 o'clock hour. But right now, I just want to open the show with asking, have either one of you seen the McMahon docuseries?
I have not.
Okay.
Nah, not me. I'm still on the fence.
All right. Well, don't worry. I took one for the team and I binge watched it all today. It's 6 episodes. For those of you who don't know, Netflix did a documentary on Mr. McMahon talking about the rise of Mr. McMahon. And at first, it looks like it's just going to be about Vince and his rise to WWE popularity. But more as you get into it, it talks about Vince as a not only as a person, but as a businessman, as a husband, as a father, and also the controversial sides of him. Of course, they talk about the steroid scandal, the rivalry with WCW, all the usual stuff. But as you get deeper into it, it starts to talk more about some of the other, maybe lesser known things that Vince McMahon has done that's quite, shall we say, unscrupulous. And as the series progressed, I'd have to say, by the time I got to episode 3, I felt like I needed to take a shower. Like,
Mm.
I I know that usually, and it's always a rule in wrestling, when a character is on TV, it's usually that person's persona tossed up to 1,000.
Yeah.
Well, if that
Yep.
were the case, then the McMahon we saw on TV was almost the McMahon we didn't see behind the stage. Like there were some moments in the docu series that I was just like especially when they talked about his, you know, well, we know about the sex scandal he's in now, right?
Right.
With
Yep.
Janelle Grant and the NDAs and all that stuff. He had been doing that for years, and there was even a point where WWE did have or WWF at the time did have one female referee, and I won't go into details about it, but basically everything he did to Janelle, he did to this referee.
Ugh.
But
Yeah.
she didn't report it for a long time, and once she finally did, he says this in the docu series, the statute of limitation ended. What does that tell you? And if that's not bad enough, fans were turning against her, saying that she brought it on herself, basically victim blaming.
That's the messed up part about it. I mean, this dude literally has a smoking gun to a lot of this stuff. Yet there are people and some of the wrestlers that are out there that worship the ground this man walks on just
Oh,
because he
yes.
gave them the start or gave them their career. But I'm like, just because he gave you the push to get and helped you become who you are today doesn't mean he's a good person.
Yeah, the number one guy they spoke with, Hulk Hogan.
And you know what? Can we like just vote to just put him as a footnote? Cause Jesus, this man, he's just as crooked as Vince.
Mm-hmm. It was, yeah, and also on episode 5, I believe, is when they delve into what the episode is called Family Business. So it dives into his relationships with Linda, Shane, and Stephanie. And I gotta say, without going into too much, because I really think you guys should check it out. It's quite obvious that Vince does show a bit of favoritism towards his children. Not so much Shane, but for Stephanie. There was even a point where Shane felt he could never live up to his father's expectations. And that's one of the reasons why he walked away from WWE for a while. And Paul Heyman tells this story about Shane and Vince.
I
It
mean,
made me brought up old issues with me and my parents. Like, I just could not believe just how much. And you remember the match that Shane had with The Undertaker? WrestleMania 32? The Hell in a Cell?
yeah,
After that match was over, Vince gave him a hug and said he was proud of him. And apparently, that's the only time he's ever done that.
man.
With everything that Shane did, that was the moment that Vince finally said, I'm proud of you.
Okay, I didn't see the documentary myself,
Mm-hmm.
but I do have in front of me notes from, or I do have in front of me, and I'm going to give credit to ProWrestling.net editor in chief Jason Powell on this. Uh, he he compiled a whole list of notes. He took notes during his viewing. He said this, or he basically goes over the fact that um, Stephanie said Vince was easier on her than he was on Shane, but she also didn't challenge Vince the way that Shane did.
Yeah, that's true. Shane
And
at one
then
point even brought up the idea of buying UFC, but Vince wasn't for it.
Vince wasn't only not for it, but Paul Heyman actually told Paul Heyman actually said that Vince handed Shane a knife and
Yep.
told him that if he wanted an idea so bad, he should stick the dagger in his chest because that's what he needed to do to make that decision.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, the fuck?
That's exactly how Vince was. And it, honestly, like I said, okay, I'm going to go on record here. I've met Vince McMahon twice. And the first time I met him, of course, me totally ignorant to everything that was happening at the time. I think this would have been around the time after, I want to say late 90s that I
Mm-hmm.
met him first time.
Right.
And I went up to him and I was like, starstruck. And I was like, Mr. McMahon, I hope to one day work for you. I really want to be a writer for your company and I really want to make it in wrestling. And he looked at me and he's like, yeah, well, I really hope you make it. And now looking back on that conversation, it's like, was he looking at me because I was a bright-eyed, hopeful, or was he looking at me because Well, because I was pretty. You know what I mean? You know? So, and then I met him a couple years later, and this was after the WrestleMania hair versus hair billion battle of the billionaires. So he was obviously bald and he had the hat on and everything. And I met him again and I went, "Don't worry, Mr. McMahon, I'm still working on it." And he goes, "Well, just keep it up." And I still feel like he was kind of giving me the once over. So now looking back on it, it's kind of it
Kind of creepy,
It's
yeah.
cringe.
Yeah.
is cringe. It's kind of like, I'm not going to name names when I found out one of our former guests was named during the Me Too movement. So it's like, ugh, ugh. But yeah,
I'm going to
honestly,
be fair. A lot of our former guests
Yeah.
were
I didn't, yeah, that's what I was
caught
gonna
up in
say.
that.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But for what it is, for a docu-series, for what it is, it's worth the watch. You guys really should check it out. If you don't watch all of it, at least just watch the first episode just to get an idea of how Vince got his start, how his father never visited him when he was younger, and it's just something to check out. And I just read earlier on Twitter X that apparently Vince and Kevin Dunn are going to create their own docu-series to counteract Netflix's docu-series.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. I was like,
Go ahead, JC. What do you think?
okay, so I heard, going on, I'm seeing on X, I said, what can they possibly say that's not gonna be straight up romanticized? Because, Netflix really didn't have a quote unquote dog in that fight, and they had all this stuff, all the documentation, all the stuff that's been put out there, and they can put it out there raw and unfiltered. So Vince coming back and saying, "Well, this, let me tell you how it actually happened." I I don't know what you're gonna say that's gonna convince a lot of people what Netflix said, because and we already like, you don't know how many people were so happy that he was pretty much kicked. Now, he left the WWE, because you can see from night and day how it was ran, and how the shows were produced. Especially on Raw, because that was his baby. It's not, let's throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. It's like it actually has a storyline that is easy to follow. You're seeing people actually get in the ring with not just getting just random people getting in the ring to fight. You actually have stuff that goes on that leads them up to it.
Yeah, it's gonna
So
be interesting to see what happens next.
right. So mm, I just don't know what. I know he's trying to save face, but I don't know how much face he's trying to save.
Well, from the look of the documentary, he doesn't have much face to save to begin with.
Ooh,
Yikes.
yeah, no.
Age has not been well with him. I'm sorry to say that. All right. I'm seeing someone coming in right now. I like to admit into our little conversation here. Welcome, the keeper of the JWO, as well as the host of the VSW Podcast, and soon to be commentator for Beantown Wrestling Alliance. Ladies and gentlemen, the Versace Stoner, your boy.
Hey, welcome. It is your boy, Versace Stoner here. Thank you for
Good,
having me on.
good
Mhm.
evening, keeper. How are you today?
Doing good. It's the end of a week, Sunday, but we got a very exciting week coming up. I heard you mention the word the Beantown. We have that happening Thursday night in Revere, Massachusetts on Beachmont Ave. The Beachmont Rumble. It's going to be an inaugural show for Beantown Wrestling Alliance. And it'll be my inaugural commentary too. So I am well. No, let's back that up. It won't be my inaugural commentary. I was doing AWL commentary as well, but this will be my first booking for commentary with guys and girls that are on the scene that are making moves.
All right. Well, I'd like to introduce you to my two dearest friends, my co-hosts. First from the Hotlanta, this is JC.
Hello.
Hey,
And he's originally from Florence, Kentucky, but now he's okay because he's in okay. This is Jeremy.
Evening.
Hey, how's it going?
Going.
All right, so let's dive in with the pretty much the quintessential question. How did you become a fan of professional wrestling?
Fan of professional wrestling? How? Let's see. It would involve probably Hulk Hogan, King Kong Bundy in a steel cage. Um, seeing larger than life characters growing up, it caught me. It caught me right off guard. Seeing these guys go out there and just do these things, because you wouldn't see an Andre the Giant walking the street. You wouldn't see a Haystacks Kowloon walking, you know, to your local grocery store. You wouldn't see any of this. You could only see these guys and girls wrestling. And I was just, like I said, hooked by the colors. Everything of that rock and roll era just grabbed me. And it would lead into, the 90s, Attitude Era, right up until maybe like Ruthless Aggression. Then I took a break. Life kind of happened and just had life. But it didn't really stop the fandom. It just, because it would pick right back up when I did get back. It was just a matter of kind of like a pause. But yeah, it was definitely those early like 80s. Like I remember, like if I had to think of one off the head, it would be probably SummerSlam '89. Macho Man, or the Macho King at the time, with Zeus versus Hogan and Brutus.
Yep.
It was the whole premises of the No Holds Barred movie. They tied it in. Me being a big fan of Zeus, I actually enjoyed that, and I saw that actually because I was young. I actually saw that before I saw Friday. So when I saw Friday, I was like, "Oh, there's that wrestler Zeus."
Nice. So seeing it as a kid, and by the way, SummerSlam '89 is what got me into wrestling. So I was kind of cool with that. For me, it was Ultimate Warrior versus Rick Rude, but that's a whole
That
nother
was a
story.
great flair too. A great thing. And for a while, because WrestleMania 6 had happened, Hogan wasn't really he wasn't champion. So you know you had a Rick Rude Ultimate Warrior Championship match. It was really good, I thought. And their feud and what they did with the trunks and everything, it was a time.
Yeah, it was a time, definitely. So seeing all that and becoming a fan, what was the moment that made you decide maybe I want to try wrestling?
Oh, I mean, as a kid, me and my few cousins, we would wrestle when we could. They were usually younger than me though, so I mean I'd always get told, "Oh, stop the play fighting." As we got older, me and friends, backyard stuff, have some fun. And then like in high school, ECW kind of popped and a backyard scene did start forming. So people were just messing around with ideas of just hitting each other with barbed wire bats and stuff. I had a friend that used to jump through tables at school. Um, we hit one kid over the head with a steel chair. Like he walked in and my friend was like, "Hey, tell this kid to come in here." And I didn't know what was going on, honestly. So I said, "Hey, come here." And all of a sudden, just bam. And it's like knowing what I know now about wrestling and how things have worked and knowing what he was doing, it's like he's lucky he didn't kill the kid, because he just walked in and he just bashed him over the head. And I mean, this was a different time. I will never say bullying is okay. Bullying is never okay. But the kid's name was like Stephen Bacon or something, and he used to just annoy people. And I was cool with everybody because I didn't like I had different interests as everybody. Like I like wrestling, but I also could like chill with the Star Wars people. I could chill with the Star Trek people. Like they were cool with me. I could chill with the people smoking pot. They liked me too. Like I was just very versatile, but other people weren't. They were like, "Oh, this kid, I like him." So like I said, like people would just do different things. But wrestling was so relevant in the times. Like, just recently I dropped my kid off, to camp. He went to summer camp. Well, not recently, but over summer. And I ran into a guy, and I didn't recognize him off the bat. And he had to refresh my memory. And he was a year older than me. He was like the I guess the captain of the football team. Yes, that's what it was. And his senior year, they had to do like the rally and whatever. And now I remember it all, 'cause they bring the classes down to watch this stuff. It's like a half day or some shit. And this kid came down and to do something for the team, and they hit the music. All of a sudden, you hear, "Are you ready?" This dude comes out with the leather jacket, everything. Now his like classmates, his other teammates, they're like kind of embarrassed. Nobody else came. So this dude decides to shoot on them. He's like, well, you know what? I was gonna say a bunch of nice things, but you know what? The real truth is that we wouldn't have won a championship if it wasn't for me. These people can't even get up. These people don't even stand up next to me. They don't even deserve to get a ring or whatever it is. And they're like, and at the end of it, he's like, you know what, people? I got two words for you. Suck it. Boom. As soon as that happened, the principal, come with me. Even for myself, I got into deep waters because I hung out with the wrestling kids at lunch. We always would talk different storylines and things. And there was a group across of older kids, and they would always just say stupid remarks like, hey, wrestling's fake. Like, really try to just to irk us. And, most of the time it would not. I would come back with witty things, and, like, I'm a teenager, so they'd be like, yeah, wrestling's fake. I'm like, well, so isn't your mom kids, but you still watch them, right? Ruthless, ruthless. But one day they threw a milk carton over the table, and it just hit us. And it started a food fight.
Oh, Lord.
So, a food fight erupts, and I get up on the table and I start doing all sorts of DX sockets. I get pulled down and I get dragged to the principal's office, and they're like, you can't use that word, da da da. I'm like, why? I'm not swearing. They're like, you said the F word. I said, I most certainly did. And I said, suck it. And she goes, well, either way, I don't care what you said. Like, you were getting up at the table, you had people's attention. That's riot-like behavior. Like, you're staying home for 3 days for riot-like behavior. Um, and then the most notable thing, honestly, like I said, we were into wrestling. Like, when I say wrestling was everywhere, like me and my friend, we did a science project. We had to do evolution. I did evolution at WWF. I passed it in. I got a B plus. Like,
Hey.
what are you gonna do? Teacher liked wrestling, but then Owen Hart died, and it touched some people. And my friend, I don't know what he was thinking, but his mother made him a perfect replica of the Blue Blazer outfit, costume, everything, cape, mask, everything to a T, Blue Blazer. And this kid decides to run into school one day, runs through all the classrooms howling, and pelts the oldest math teacher he could find with a bag of marshmallows, screaming, just ran. Now she's in the middle of the class. Now you can imagine all this disturbance. You're sitting there, you're a kid, she's teaching. All of a sudden, some dude comes dressed in the Blue Blazer, running through into the classroom, going Ric Flair, and starts just throwing marshmallows at her. Yeah, he got removed from the school permanently, gone. But again, it was wrestling related. So, but at this point, I wanted to be a wrestler. I wanted to do something, and I got myself to go. Obviously, Killer Kowalski's school was the known school, and I went down there, and I was 140 pounds, and I was 5'8". And they were just like, yeah, you could do this or that, but I don't see you being a wrestler. And I had a feeling of that because, well, I mean, at the time, big men were the rage. Even growing up, there was no 5'8" wrestlers. There was no BRGs. There was no Eddie Guerreros. There was no Rey Mysterios. There was no little men in wrestling. Everybody was just giant. So I was like, okay, fine. And I got myself, it stung for a little bit, but then, I just did other things. Like I said, life happened. Took a break from wrestling. I actually got into amateur boxing for a little bit. Did some other stuff. Learned how to do web design, graphic design, music, video, videography, different things. And that would all probably lead back to like 2017, 18 era.
All right. JC, Jeremy, do either one of you have a question for Versace? Keeper?
Okay. I was
Uh,
gonna say, oh, you wanna go, Jeremy?
no, I was going to say I was going to defer to you.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, go back to your favorite match. I would say instead. I know we were talking a lot about WWE, WWF. You know, the big names at that point. What is your favorite indie match? Just want to put that out there.
My favorite indie match. Yeah, and that's the thing. When I was growing up, WWF is what I could watch. I couldn't get WCW or anything else. I could get the pay-per-views. And the indie scene at that time wasn't very good. At least when I remember, I'd walk in, I wouldn't notice, nobody was notable. They were all just kind of enhancement talent. We'd be waiting for, the honky tonk man to show up or something. And he'd come take pictures. And, you know, when I came back into wrestling and I walked into the indie scene in 2017, it was really, really different. Everybody had a purpose, a role, a name, a place. They had character, definition. They weren't enhancement talent, they were talent, and they were working other talent. And it was something totally different. And I've seen a lot of matches. I've been to a lot of them. I would say my favorite one would have to be Anthony Garcia versus Daniel Garcia versus Wheeler Yuta at the IWTV 100 at the H2O Center. It was a 1 hour man iron match. It was a 102-degree day. It was a sauna inside, and these two guys just gave it their all regardless for 1 hour. Two of the best wrestlers out there. And, it went to a no contest, but it meant something. I felt like it made the IWTV title mean something.
Oh, very cool. Jeremy, how about you? Do you have a
What
question?
was okay? So, what was the wildest experience you ever had?
My wildest experience I ever had is with a promotion. I had probably two. There was two nights. One is I started a co-promotion with a friend back in 2021. Hold on. All right now.
Yeah, but the thing is,
Mm-hmm.
I want Laura to go first, but she won't.
Tell her she has to. And so I started, my friend asked me, he says, I like what you do. You know the scene very well. You go to a lot of shows. I want to start a promotion. This is my idea. Is this something that you know about? And I said yes, because I was a fan of No Peace Underground. He was looking for something that wrestling that would be almost like Backyard, but with professionals. It was very weird, very different. We called it KPW. We did a few shows here. I filmed one near my house at a cemetery, some wonky matches. And then we decided to do a few more like that, and then we got in front of a live crowd. Now, this is my first time dealing with anything like that at all. And I had my old podcaster partner at the time who, like me, we both had severe anxiety. We were both new to this. We were both doing all these things. And, tragedy kind of story. I mean, there's one thing after another. I mean, people were pulling out left and right. Wrestlers didn't want to work with this guy. This guy couldn't work here. This guy was a criminal. This guy was this. And the final card, I had it all set. People were coming everywhere. And my co-owner or co-host at the time decided, well, he didn't decide, but unfortunately he slipped and fell at his real job and he got himself a bruised rib. Couldn't wrestle. And that happening just started a trend of events. So him pulling out made me not want to bring in my main event guy from Jersey, which I ended up having to pay him half to sit home. Two other people called out. One guy blew me off, 10 minutes before bell time because he had no gas.
Ooh.
And we went to this guy's house, to get the stuff for the show. And he gives me, the music, everything. And he was very out of it, obviously, from pain meds. So, the show begins. The guy was very specific, the owner of the building wanted the national anthem. We play the national anthem. It starts skipping on the CD. And then every other song was just about the national anthems. Like, Rob Roberts comes out to the national anthem. And he doesn't know what to do. And my microphone is no good because, I have no idea what we're doing, but there's no PA sound system. Nobody hooked it up. There's no internet. My computer wouldn't work. So all I could do was I had this little handheld that did nothing. A whole promotion showed up, showcase, just to make sure that my main eventer wouldn't pull this clown gimmick. And they intimidated him.
Mm.
Basically by just sitting there watching him because it was fresh out. He just like left there or something. And they didn't really want him going places with it. And so he's sitting there and getting nervous. So he wasn't able to do the right finish. Granted, everybody paid their tickets, but people got drunk, people got rowdy. It was a weird night. It made money. I would never do it again. It was like one of those one and done things. I was like, it's not worth the headache. The other weirdest thing that happened in wrestling, believe it or not, is like, I would go back into business stupidly with the same person. I was under totally different settings, different vision, real ring. This, by the way, happened in a UFC cage. This was now in a real ring. And I had a match myself this time. It was with me and the president of the JWO, TJ Tucker. At the time, I was in an alliance with the other guy under Tough Inc., and I was feuding with the JWO, which would be TJ Tucker and Rob Roberts solely at the time. They were just a tag. I had this beef with, I was going to do fight with TJ. He was going to, we were going to start winning. We would have a little fight, and, me not being the wrestler, I would have to, kind of look, whatever. And then at some point, TJ would kind of snap and choke me. The ref would disregard it. Wouldn't be able to stop it. And then my partner would come out and stop the match. And it was only supposed to be like a 4-minute thing. Match happens. Already the president tells me that, we're going to go a little slower because he forgot his inhaler at home and he has asthma. So that's okay. Cool. I'm not in the best shape. I'm not even in fighting shape. So we're just going to make this happen as best we can. I'm not supposed to be in, though. I'm not a wrestler. A personality. I'm a manager. At that point, I was a manager. So we have the match. It goes in. Now, we didn't have a referee, so one of the other people used their girlfriend. Yeah, the 4 minutes come up, and nobody's coming outside. She doesn't know how to communicate with the back or anybody else. So now me and TJ got to wrestle. And at one point, I go to put him in a submission. Because I'm a pretty good submission person. I know a lot of the locks and a lot of, So I put him in a submission. And the ref gets down and starts counting. 1, 2, 3. And, me and him just look at each other and look at him and be like, no, this is for submission. She's like, oh. And so the match keeps going. All of a sudden, I see the president's starting to wheeze a little bit. I'm like, okay, we got to bring this home. I don't know how we're going to do it, but I'm just going to pin you. And we'll just deal with the outbox. I know I got to fight Rob later at another time. So I'm like, okay, let me just finish it. So I finished the match, but I was like, and I go back. I'm like, I asked Pop, what happened? He's like, I never heard my cue. I'm like, you knew the time, 4 minutes. Come out. But those would be probably the two weirdest experiences I've ever had.
The beauty of independent wrestling.
On that level, yeah. I mean, that's not every level. Not every show is like that, granted. And the higher up the tiers don't run that low. But things happen. Wrestling is the one thing that anything can and will happen. You have to almost be prepared. We weren't prepared for nothing. We had no idea what we were doing. We just ran a podcast and, did videos. We really weren't prepared to put on a show, especially with all, I had a card of 7 matches and we ran down to 3. And, not for nothing with a 3-card match. And then you had, the opening contest we had, Ray Ranson, the Sheik, and that Angel the Icon guy. They fight in the ring. It was an okay match. They were okay, but nobody wanted to bump. Nobody wanted to bump in the cage. All night long, they're going bump, 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 bump. Nobody wants to bump. It's stiff, very stiff. Next match comes. I got the 2 girls that I booked. I booked Corinne Mink at the time. She was wrestling. And she said she'd bring her own opponent. She brings Big Juicy. I don't know if you know her, but she's awesome. Big Juicy, Corinne Mink in the cage. Again, the fans start going bump, 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 bump. And it's mostly the other wrestlers that were sitting there that were doing this, obviously, the other workers from the other promotion. And finally, they've been drinking too. They had their own show. They were partying. I get that. Some of them said some stupid things, insulted Corinne. And then at one point, she just turned around and goes, if you want to see bumps so much, why don't you step your fucking ass in here and you'll get bumped right now down into the mat. Like, she went off on this dude. And even after, she was like, what the fuck is this? Like, you get rid of these people right now, please. Like, we can't have, like you shouldn't even be allowing these people here. This is so disrespectful. That was my second match. Then my third match was the Painted Red match. And this was really supposed to be I originally had Tough Daddy versus Dirtbag Dan in a death match. It's going to be something decent. But everything got scrapped and it became the Painted Red match. TJ Duggar versus Rob Robbs in a death match. Now, they had some weapons. I brought glass because the venue allowed us glass. He was excited for it. Originally had this like outdoor area we could kind of like bring the fight to and hit with the glass lube. So we were going to do it there, but he actually ended up just saying how he was so excited to just do it in the venue. But so, these guys are fighting. It's about, a 16-minute match. And like I said, they did the best they could. It was a good fight. They had their spots. I think some of it could have been more snappier planned. But the ending is what killed it because, like I said, everybody had this idea of what was supposed to happen. I was ready for what was supposed to happen because I was supposed to bring out one of my characters. And I did that because he was intimidated by the others. So I looked stupid, and the ending of the match made no sense and couldn't even, they had to do like 3 different separate promos after to try to make it make sense, and it still didn't because nobody knew how to finish it. Like I said, I wouldn't probably do that again. If I did, I would bring on advisors or people that have been in the industry a lot longer that are going to show up day of show and know what to do and talent that are more reliable. I get it, things happen, but if it's over gas money, just hit me up. I'll pay you early. Like, simple things that you don't think of. But anything can happen in wrestling. It's wild.
Most definitely. Been there, done that myself, wrote the chapter. So when did you decide to switch to, you mentioned it before, about what brought up the VSW podcast? How'd that come to be?
See, now that's a better story, I think. So back in 2017, 18, I was doing retail work, and I ended up meeting another kid that was in my department. I had gotten really sick with pneumonia, like really, really sick. Somehow I went septic. I was in the hospital for a month, almost killed me, like did some really damage. Um, and when I came out, I changed departments. I went into something a little bit less. I was working in like a dairy environment, cold, and I went into more of a kitchen cooking environment. And I met another kid, a friend, and we had this idea that we would start running these little comical short videos. And this is before there was shorts, before there was rails, before there was any of that. But we would just film these like under minute YouTubes. Like one of our favorite ones was like find a dead body. So like he just lay down in the weirdest position. I wouldn't know what it was. I wouldn't know how with whatever's around him. And I would just walk through with my phone and pretend like I just found him. And I would say things like in the most comedic way. Like I was like, oh, look at this nut about like, oh my God, they must have killed him because he was wearing those ugly shorts. Well, those shorts must have killed him. Like we just did different things. And we did this other homeless skit guy where like I could pretend to come out of my house and he'd be like laying on my lawn, sleeping, and try to pretend like it's his property. We just did different things. And we were trying to figure out and find out new things to do. And one day, I was flipping through YouTube and I found this old Macho Man promo. And he was all kind of coked out and just talking wild. And it got me thinking. I showed him, I was like, this is the energy you need. And he wanted to start something that was going to be just totally comedic wrestling. It wasn't going to really be wrestling. It was going to just be promos for wrestling. So he figured that's where the goal is. We don't have to do anything else. We can just do these little promos and vignettes. And he wanted to call it the Broke Wrestling League, and it would be basically a bunch of broke people that couldn't actually make it to real wrestling, so they're going to do these things and so they can become real wrestlers. And we did all these little like skits and little we made characters up, and we did some things, and that got me to go to the indie scene to kind of see what was out there for wrestling. That led me to Dead of Mass. That led me into NCW. That led me into then Beyond Wrestling, Chaotic Wrestling, Limitless Wrestling, just going around the board. And I had this idea that I wanted to later on, another friend came into it, and he was more of a wrestling fan now, this kid. And he became my co-host for a long time. Until finally, we had some issues because I don't know. I mean, you probably know, but at the end of the day, podcasting costs money.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to get your name out there, that costs money. If you want to start doing sponsorships and you want to start doing all this advertisement, it all costs money. And you don't necessarily ever see it come back. You'll see it come back in other ways or over time, but not necessarily right away. And it got to the point where he felt that it was kind of like, I don't know if it was him or people that he was living with, but it was like, yo, this is, this dude's taking advantage of you. Like, honestly, if I was taking advantage of the kid, I wouldn't have hung out with him every day. Like, he was my best friend. We went to every show, we did everything together. But at the time, I wasn't working, and he was still willing to keep VSW going, sponsor wise, and put up money for shows. And some matches $300-400 if you want top matches. You're talking, AEW talent, it costs money, it's a loss. But at that time, we didn't know anybody. And we were just starting out. And my other friend, he worked at the same store. He brought him in. And he said, this kid knows all about this indie scene. Maybe we can make an indie promotion. So I started something called the National Wrestling League. And I put out a little ad flyer for the National Wrestling Legion. All of a sudden, I got thousands of emails in my DM. And it's hilarious because of the names that are in there. At the time. I mean, like, people like Christian Casanova and all these guys that are, like, gone, right? Like, top dogs in the industry hitting me up from across the country before they were big. And I didn't know who any of these people were. I had no idea of the industry. I just knew some of them were cool. I was watching all these matches. I was asking for resumes. I was getting resumes sent. I was all set to do everything. And then the person that was helping me try to get the ring and everything together backed out. And left me with nothing. And me and my friend were like, we can't do this. We can't. And I was like, let's do something, Just get all this. Let's put this on the back burner. We made an apology statement. And we went in. I was going to do something with a virtual promotion. So a video game promotion. Making all these characters. And then me and him were going to do the commentary, the show. That was like 2019. And I was going to call it VSW, Versace Stoner Wrestling. It was going to have all these crazy characters I made via, Creative Wrestling. Like I said, we were going to make it a fun show, a little bit more mature, and put it out weekly, and make the storylines kind of connect and have some fun with it. And the pandemic hit. And so we didn't end up doing that either. But 2020 came around and I started seeing a lot of wrestlers and I started talking with a lot of guys. And I started realizing that I actually booked a lot of these guys and I had booked a lot of these guys and like I almost had a lot of these guys and people that were like, willing to fly from Italy and people that were willing, like I was just amazed at some of the names I was seeing. And even the people that said no, I mean, I was talking to people like Matt Cross and stuff. It's like, I don't even know how I got into some of these people's DMs or they answered it, but it was like, People want me to fly them over from Italy. They got 2 kids. I got people flying from here. I got people from Oklahoma coming up in a truckload. I had people, honestly, when I said national, like I had somebody from almost every territory in the States coming over. It was insane. I booked I know nothing. I didn't know anything about the industry, but I knew what the guy told me for budget, who didn't know anything about the industry. The budget for the show was like ridiculously never going to make that back. But it would have been one of the coolest shows to have these people from all over the country there. But it never happened. But 2020 came about, and I saw, a lot of these guys struggling. And I started, thinking about my time when I was doing, going to these shows back in 19 and 18, and how not a lot of people were talking about them. And I decided to take the VSW, turn it into a podcast, and start to talk about the indie scene and get eyes and ears on the independent scene of New England. Shows like NCW and Dem that weren't getting a lot of talk about. I wanted that to be showcased and people to listen to it. Little did we know at the time, me and my friend, we were posting videos and stuff. Well, some of them started to take off. I remember it was the Daddy Feeds Me promo. I don't know if you remember. No, Daddy Eats First promo out of AEW. It was when Hopper went over before he died. Luke went over, remember? And he did this promo, and I taped it, and it took off in view. Didn't really pay attention though. Again, but that once we did the episode, we were doing these. I started to do these episodes at about 21, maybe 2020. Maybe 2020. I was starting to do solo episodes, but 21, things started to open back up. Wrestling got back together. Me and this kid started to go out again, back to shows. I brought him in to do the podcast, and we started doing recaps, previews. We were doing the road was happening. Shows weren't really back, but we were covering the internet, shows. And then when the pandemic ended, we went full steam ahead. I mean, we were in Jersey one night, Maine the next, going back and forth across just everything we could soak up. And talk to some of the greatest people out there. I mean, I talked to Becker at the time. I talked to Alec Price. I talked to, some of these amazing kids now that are just, Alec Price is fought in Ring of Honor. Just a lot of great people. And like I said, things, that would be the start of VSW, probably. But what we didn't know is that with that, going to the shows, we would start to post videos. And we would do, and the short program has started where they took everything under a minute and made it into a short that was filmed upright. And for some reason, I only always filmed upright. So all these videos started going. I remember one at the Chaotic. It was the last Chaotic, my first Chaotic show, the last taping of the season that they were doing before they hit other venues from the tapings. They allowed fans. It was a great matchup between Ricky Smokes and Becker, and I got the finish on cam, and it was a cool kind of reversal backbend. And it ended up getting like 10 million views. And then Ace Romero got 15 million views. And then JT Drake got 15 million views. And with all these high-end views, each one drew in subscribers. So for instance, just the Becker video alone brought in 30,000 people. So my numbers every day, me and my friend are looking and we're growing. We're like, what the hell? Now he was big into the analytics. He pulls up this site called Social Blade. He puts us in there. We're at a B plus. At one point we hit A-. We're doing so well in traffic, and it was funny because AEW was just coming around at the time, and they were at B-, a B plus. So we were hitting over what AEW was doing on YouTube alone. I mean, not other places, but YouTube. And of course, WWE's A plus. They're the top dog. But we started to really gain success in that, the shorts program. I've been, we started to make income from the shorts program. We started to bring in, a little bit of revenue. I started to bring in revenue from other social media platforms. And so it became more of like, again, and he kind of left at this point right before it all kind of paid off, which I always feel bad about. If he just stuck out like 10 more days, literally, I got a big ass paycheck from Meta, like really significant, like over $1,000 in Meta payments from like video views. I had posted a video back in 22. You know Slade?
Yes.
He had a match in Beyond back in 21 against Atticus Coogan. It was a hardcore match. Atticus at one point he puts the the spikes in the head. He caps them and it all comes out. I granted at this point I wasn't getting to a lot of shows. My son, was kind of an age where the weekends were important and they still are, but I had taken a little low. So I'd always go back and find old footage because I store everything. So I found that video and I put it to the Hellraiser thing. And I said real life Pinhead. This video took off on Facebook like crazy case. The next thing I know, like I said, I got almost a little over $1,200 for that video.
Nice.
So I'm like, this is all just taking place, and it's like, I never expected to it. I never set it up to be that way. I never planned on making money with it. I just planned on having a fun little show where I'd get to talk about wrestling, talk to wrestlers, and kind of just, like I said, my thing is, I go into a show, walk in a show, if somebody recognizes me from my podcast, like, cool, that's awesome. I'm happy. I do like to sponsor people, some people don't think it's, the smartest decision to sponsor or it's money market or buying your way in and this is how I look at it. If I was gonna spend $100 on Google Ads to promote my podcast, I'm going to reach whatever audience I reach. It doesn't mean they're going to be wrestling fans. It doesn't mean they're going to be independent wrestling fans. It doesn't mean they're going to be fans of the wrestling that I even watch, even if they're indie fans. Could just be a throwaway. Now, granted, $100 sponsorship to an event or more, it might not bring in money back per se, unless you got like a table or some kind of sales that you can bring back. But what it will do is target that specific demographic that you're looking for. You're at a show, and those people are at the show. Those people enjoy the show, or they wouldn't be there. You want those people to listen to what you think about the show. You want those people to engage in that. Those are your audience. So why wouldn't you just directly market to them directly, right at the show? Getting your name said in front of them, getting your logo out there, whatever it might be. It gets said to them. I think for me, that will always be the better way to promote myself rather than doing, ads. And then not to mention with YouTube, added videos that have ads, they don't count towards monetization anyways.
All right. Well, for those of you who don't know, Christian Casanova better as WWE superstar Carmelo Hayes. So that's pretty
Yes,
awesome.
I know. I still call him Christian. I can't not. He'll always be Christian. He'll always be Christian with the little Versace gear that he had. I think that's what made him. When I saw him start to wrestle, like that's what stuck out. He had this kind of Versace branded gear. It was pretty cool.
Oh no, I'm the same way. There are a lot of wrestlers that went up to the big time that I still call by their regular names or the names I knew them by. So believe me, I understand that. Now you're doing all this, and you mentioned it before, but we have to ask, how did you become the keeper of the Juggalo Wrestling Order?
Huh. I need a good tip for this story. So like I said, back in the day, I ended up when I was doing the podcast, I decided to come across an idea we called cruising for a breathing. We ended up talking to people all across the world, well, the U.S. about wrestling. Some may become a winner, some may receive a payment. Two of our stops, one was with Tuck Daddy in Fall River, and the other was with a TJ Tucker in Fall River. And when I went to TJ Tucker, he had something about him. Character wise, charisma, the swearing, not caring, saying what's on his mind. It was somebody real, somebody, you know, that was like, damn, this dude's a real wrestler. He wasn't trying to be a star, he's just trying to have some fun in the industry. Talked about a promotion, RW, Reunion Wrestling. I started to follow them a little bit. Bought a couple of DVDs they had for sale, checked them out. It was cool. It was fun. It wasn't my favorite style of wrestling. There's a lot of comedy involved, which sometimes is okay, but like any good movie, like anything, like sometimes I want to watch a horror movie, sometimes I want to watch a comedy, sometimes I want to watch this. But there was again something about RW that was just really cool, just its backstory, who they were bringing in, why. I got invited to go and see them at one of their tapings. So I went in there, I got to see TJ live. And TJ was just, like I said, just on a different level. He knew who I was from the interview. He treated me like gold. I ended up buying a shirt from him. And we kind of connected. And so when when Tough Daddy came to me about KPW and wanted to do this idea without a ring, and I had ideas of, he had an idea of like Suburban Fight Club. I had an idea of like No Peace Underground and a club scene. But then, the cinematic stuff was still in my head, like the cemetery match. So I'm like, maybe we could pull something off. But he had a list of people that he wanted. One being his trainer, which was Rob Roberts, and one was being, TJ Tucker. And at the time, the JWO wasn't really a thing. I mean, TJ it was always a plan in his head. It's something he wanted to do, but it never really took foot. It would actually take everybody to fight each other and kind of push each other's buttons, I would say, and bring probably out the worst out in everybody for the JWO to kind of come together. To some point, everybody just unified in, and then, we were given roles. Now, me personally, before I could be given that actual role, I had to be visited by the general, Mr. Pickles. And I have to say, it was not pleasant.
Oh dear. Yeah, I can imagine.
He showed up at my house. He showed up at my house. He scared my kid. He scared my dad. TJ was with him, and TJ basically kept them at bay with his bat. Pickle started to talk to me, and then he just gang style jumped me and just beat me down for probably a couple of minutes, and then carried me off to I don't know where. The next thing I remember, I wake up and I'm back at home, and I have a little thing saying "Congratulations, you're in," and I'm like, "What happened?" I don't really remember much. I just remember, like I said, I answered the door, and it was TJ, and he was talking to me about joining him and leaving Tough Inc. and all this stuff. And then, like I said, I turned around and the general was behind me. And that's really, honestly, probably the last thing I really remember that day. I've seen the video. I don't really remember a lot of that. It's wild.
Well, I can't wait because since I'm now a member, I know that eventually I'll be visited by the general. I'm kind of a little intimidated by that. So, what's what's this? Hold on. Something's happening here. Hang on a second. What's this?
Ooh.
Hello?
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 Ah!
Oh, sir, Vice President. Rob Roberts, everybody. Hi.
What is going on?
What's up, Versace?
What is happening?
Not much, brother.
I was just talking about the day that TJ and Pickles jumped me in, gang-like style.
Oh boy.
All right,
Yeah,
so
no.
what do we owe the pleasure?
I just wanted to say hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I kind of feel like Rob's a little kind of like Joe Henry. You say his name and he appears.
You did say Rob Roberts a couple times, so yeah, like Beetlejuice. So,
You said it too many times. Damn it.
Well, how many times was my name dropped?
Less times
Quite a
than you
few.
were probably dropped as a
Probably.
kid.
Probably.
But I will say this, Rob is probably one of the most solid wrestlers on the scene right now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
You know, you got some things coming up. You've been doing, wrestling, still. We were talking, they were talking about, KPW. You were in that. You actually were in my main event. I was
Yes, I
talking about
was.
how we were kind of, a little cock blocked at the end, but
Unfortunately.
it got through it. But you were with me through that. You were with me in the cemetery. You came with
Yes,
me over
I.
to XUC.
Yep.
We did that, all that fun. And that, like I said, was a learning experience. I wouldn't say it was the worst time. Definitely wasn't the
No,
best either, but we had some good times out there.
absolutely.
well, right before you came on, I was telling Versace about how eventually, even though I am a member, that at some point I will have to face the general in my own initiation. Um,
Have fun with that.
I still got to see if I can get him on the show.
Yeah, but remember, he doesn't talk that much, though.
Yeah, well, we'll figure
Oh,
something out.
smile and wave. Just smile and wave.
That all right. Well, we'll figure something out with that. All right. So Versace, one last thing. Up I recently saw one of your posts that you were recently made the commentator for an upcoming company called Beantown Wrestling Alliance. Care to comment on how that happened?
Good thing. I think it would happen just from me putting myself out there. I do a lot of podcasting, right? Um, I started VSW. I then got involved with another network. I'm still actually involved with the network, the Big Musket Podcast Network. I started another show on there called The Nor'easter. It's co-hosted, and it deals with just New England pro wrestling. Then I also, I help him out with his show a little bit, KTV Media, which deals with more foreign affairs. Like we just wrapped up talking with Starbuck, the owner of the Finnish wrestling promotion Slam Wrestling. I don't know if you watched that on Triller at all. It's cool. It's really good. And this guy, we had him on the show, and it really intrigued me because he actually, he's from Finland. There was no wrestling in Finland. He came to Canada actually and got trained by Stu Hart. Went back to Finland and started pro wrestling for the country. And he made these promotions. It's the only one of the only promotions out there, and it's getting all these international stars out there, and it started kind of a wrestling revolution for the Nordics. And it's just cool to think that because you always think your wrestling bubble in New England, but it's like there's more than that. There's the states, there's the world. But I'd like to think that all of this buzz of me talking on all these shows got the owner Joe to listen to me and hear me. And, I remember he asked me if he could come on my show, and I said, yes, sure, of course. I always love bringing promoters on or new companies on, just, talk about the scene. What are you going to bring different to this, scene? We have a rich scene, I like to get into that. And before the show, he asked me if I would want to do co-commentary with Nick the Greek. And I said, yeah, most definitely. He was like, is this something you do? And I was like, I mean, I have. I've done AWL. I was supposed to do a few others. One I couldn't get to one of the shows, and the other was it was an overseas show. I was supposed to do it remotely, but it was a very bad connection, and my lag was I couldn't commentate properly with that 30-second lag that I was seeing. But I've done, like I said, AWL. You can attest you've seen some. It is pretty good. And I can only get better by more I do. I've also, like I said, I played around a lot with the video game ones. There's one that I remember that I did. It's a pretty cool story. I did a like kind of I call it a dream match. I did Ava Everett versus Alondra Blaze, and I had them wrestle each other. And I came in and did the commentary, and I shared it, and I tagged Alondra, and she actually said, "Oh, this is so cute," and she re-shared it, and I thought that was just great. Because I was like, for her to listen to it and watch it and then re-share, I'm like, I must have said something decent. And then, but yeah, he asked me. I said, of course. I saw the card, and I was like, I mean, these are some of these people, I know very well in the scene. I've watched them. I've watched them grow. They're people that I respect on the scene. So I'm like, I'd be more than happy. And I'm very excited for it. I'm very excited to get the opportunity. I'm grateful for it as well. So I mean, I didn't get to go, to wrestling school. I've done day seminars, fantasy camps and other things like that to learn, basic stuff, bumps and stuff. Rob has taught me some stuff too. I can't say not. But as far as, signing up for a school and going 2-3 times a week at my age, it's not, I don't know if it's worth it. I don't know, because I'm not looking to be a wrestler at this age. If I had to take bumps, sure, I'd like to learn, but I do want to be a commentator. I don't know if I necessarily need to go to full-time school for that. That's something I can do, like, learn in 3 months, but let's see how it goes. I mean, I've already got this, and this is going to be fun, I think. They've already got a November show in the works. It's up there as well. And Joe, the owner's got a lot of plans for Beantown. So I myself, like I said, I'm excited to see where it goes.
I'm excited to see where it goes too. Not for nothing, Vice President, the TV is on.
Well, they're watching wrestling. Sorry, old school WCW. You know how Nina is with her wrestling.
And on that note, Versace, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's a pleasure having you on. I hope you can do it again. And maybe at one point you can come on and co-host with us and have a little fun. Maybe we'll have our own little watch along for a future show. So
yeah, definitely. Like I said, I do primarily, deal with the indie scene, but I do also see you guys talk and touch WWE stuff, AEW, Ring of Honor, Impact, New Japan, whatever it is. I'm there for it all. While I do, like I said, favoritism, I do enjoy all pro wrestling. But thank you for having me. Honestly, it's been a real pleasure.
all right, so the last few minutes we got promote what you got, where can people find you, and what you got coming up.
Well, like I said, what I got coming up is just that I will be at Beantown Thursday night in Revere, Beachmont Ave, 6:30. The gates open, 7 o'clock. Show starts. Got the VFW there. We'll have the Beachmont Rumble. You got a bunch of matches plus a Rumble to crown new champion. You can find me on social media. You can find me mainly YouTube /VSW Podcast. Versace Stoner on Facebook. Versace Stoner on Instagram. X I am Versace Stoner. I'm trying to think. TikTok, something totally different. I'm father_of_lies. And I did a social experiment a couple of years ago to see if something about algorithms, and the flat earth algorithm just made me like buku bucks in like 3 months. So I put a bunch of conspiracy videos up there to see how well they do, and they do wonderful. But you can find me on there. I do also have a VSW podcast. I really don't do TikTok though much anymore. It's mostly just Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, X. Yeah, I mean, I'm around. I try to stay busy. Facebook, I also have 2 pages. I have that and the VSW podcast page as well. Trying to think if there's anything else. Twitch is also VSW podcast. We do gaming. play a lot of games. Now we're getting into October, so you'll see a lot of horror survival games, and we do a lot of fun with that. We do spooky nights, and I've been putting my shows on there as well. That's a new thing kind of this year with season three. I've been airing the shows in a lot more places. I also have unseen shows and unknown shows for that you can see only if you're subscribed to me at Versace Stoner on Facebook. There's a bunch of behind the scenes stuff on there. It's like $2 a month. You can get all this cool access stuff. We also have you can subscribe to Twitch and do the same stuff. And yeah, I mean, I'm out there. If you can't see me on all that, catch me at shows. I like to go to different shows, checking them out. Big fan of Limitless Wrestling, Rad Pro Wrestling, Chaotic Wrestling, NCW. I don't get to the South Shore enough, but I just did see Live Pro Wrestling. That was an amazing show. I know Super Show is awesome. Ring Gladiators is a lot of fun. A lot of shows out there. I try to get, like I said, as many as I can. Weekends sometimes are stacked, but yeah, that's where you'll find me.
All right, thank you so much for stopping in, Keeper, and I'll check you out on the Into the Witching Hour podcast, a horror movie podcast that we do together, along with Rob Roberts, as well as Chad the Killer and Jesse Stolberg. So I will see you guys later. AWO for life.
Later.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop whoop.
Hey.
All right, there we go.
I was halfway thinking when you were talking about the general jumping you, I was almost expecting it to happen right then.
Oh yeah, me too. I was like, oh boy,
Yeah,
I need
Mr.
to
Pickles
brace
is
myself.
yeah. If you get a chance to check out the link, it's called the Versace Stoner Indoctrination. It's on his YouTube channel. It's exactly what he sounds like. He's talking with TJ, and then all of a sudden, from the bushes right behind him, Pickles just shows up. And yeah, there are moments where I look over there, and I think he's going to come walking into the door. So it's like, I don't know. But it is a mandatory thing that all JWO members have to do. Nina Beretta has to do it as well. They were made before me, so it's going to be her first, then me. So if you see me one day with clown makeup on my face, you'll know that Pickles has been here. So yeah, I'll be joining Versace this Thursday at Beantown Wrestling Alliance with our table representing our show. Speaking of which, thanks to JC.
Dun, dun, dun,
Nice.
dun.
Yep. This will be hanging at the table, so check this out. You guys will be with me in spirit, although I wish you would be there with me. So, by the way, I just want to say right now that I hate football. So,
But
if you guys are Seth Rollins fans, you'll get the reference.
yeah,
So,
I was like, what? Why are we quoting Seth?
Well, I think I know why we're quoting him because
rub it in.
I'm actually looking right now for the ew, ew, 30-13.
Rub it in, why don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like yikes. But I want to say this: I do love football.
Oh,
Finally,
oh.
you got to understand. My team's been 0-3 until this week, or
Ah,
till today,
all right. All
because
right.
I was at that game last. I was at that game last Monday.
Oh yeah, I remember. I saw you posted pictures of it. Well, score aside, did you have a good time?
Yeah, it was Monday Night Football in Cincinnati is it's it's a pretty good atmosphere. I mean, fans were fans were excited. We thought we would be we thought we would put a hurting on Washington, and nope, nope.
Well, you had fun, I guess. You're right.
Yeah. So, of course, the next morning was not fun because instead of going to bed, that was why I didn't go to bed Monday night because I had to turn around 3 hours later and be at the airport.
Oh yeah.
Mm, yeah, that's understandable. So, well, at least you had fun. So, speaking of having fun, seems like Monday Night Raw, we had a lot of fun because there was an announcement made as far as the women's title match goes for Bad Blood. Rhea Ripley came out and told Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio that there's going to be a little asterisk as far as the match goes, as far as Dominic goes, because let's face it, Dominic is always a deciding factor when it comes to the women's title matches. When he was with Rhea Ripley, and no different with Liv Morgan. This time, Dominic is going to be going back to what he experienced once before, being behind bars. He will
Oh,
be in a shark cage hoisted above the ring during Liv and Rhea's match.
oh Lord. That's gonna be fun.
Well, you get to see it live, Daisy. Are you looking forward to seeing Dominic in a cage?
I'll take some pictures, but
I
I can't
mean,
believe I'm gonna actually be there. Oh my God, I just realized that. Or I'm re-realizing that.
well, that's what I was wondering because it's like, have you okay? Yeah, I mean, we've all gone to live events. I personally have never seen this. Has anyone else ever seen anyone in a cage above a ring?
No.
Nah,
No.
no, I haven't. I've seen Hell in a Cell matches, but not anyone in their own personal mini cage above a ring.
Well, you're gonna have a unique viewpoint of this too. I mean, but do you think it will be a deciding factor in this matchup, or do you think maybe other members of the Judgment Day might try to interfere?
That's what I was thinking because um you still got JD McBlockhead and Finn.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And
Finn's gonna be busy because he's gonna have his own match later on with Damian Priest.
okay, well, JD and Carlito, which to this day I'm still trying to figure out where Carlito even fits into this. He just like self-inserted himself into this group. To the point where they just had to make him a member because he was just there.
Well, JD McDonough was kind of just there too, and they made him a member.
Well, he had a tie. He had Finn. So he's going to become a member at some point, whether we wanted to or not. But yeah, so so I'm like wondering. So what are they gonna do? Are they gonna ban any member of Judgment Day from coming to ringside, or I mean, we got Dom taken care of, but we still got those other those other malefactors. Okay, sound like Gears.
It
Sorry, man. Malefactors
is
coming
Dom
out.
really taken care of though? Because I mean, you know what's going to happen. He's going to smuggle something in there, and then at the opportune time, he's going to drop it to Liv. Liv's going to use it. Rhea's
Right.
going to lose.
It
I'm
has
booking
happened.
that right now.
It has happened. I want to say, wasn't Chris Jericho in a shark cage once, and he kind of dropped something in the ring?
Yep.
Yeah, so it has happened. It does have precedence. Of course, the most famous escape from a cage was when China was in a cage and she pulled the bars open so she could get out. Um, but we don't. Dominic's probably not that strong to do that. But yeah, there is a possibility that him hanging above the ring, he could just as easily slide a pair of brass knucks and drop him through the bars. So
Just make
it's
sure you don't drop him on somebody because he's gonna be above. Because
yeah, knowing him, he'll probably drop it down and Rio catch it instead of Liv. So
yeah.
or bonk Liv on the head with it. So
Oh, ouch. Yeah.
So this is definitely something that's going to be interesting to see. Um, so we have that taken care of, and then moving over to NXT, we had this was the final NXT on the USA Network. As of this coming Tuesday, the 1st, they will be officially on the CW. So they made a big deal about it on this past Tuesday. They had press conferences with several champions. They also had a little training montage with Tony D. Total Rocky 3 reference. I'm loving it. But I think the big news that happened was during the Roxanne Perez Julia press conference, where as both of them were talking, all of a sudden we hear this third voice come out of nowhere asking in Spanish, are you ready? Are you ready for when I come? And everyone's like confused. And then you look to the screen and it's Stephanie Vaquer, one of the other big names that WWE signed that actually I was curious as to where she was going to be because they weren't really hinting that she was going to NXT. So I honestly thought she was going to the main roster. So the fact that they're putting her in NXT really surprised me. But yeah, she does bring up a good point. Whoever wins that matchup, it looks like Stephanie will be the first one to step up to challenge for the title. Now, the question is, which do you want to see her face? Do you want to see her face Roxanne or do you want to see her face Julia?
I
I want
kind
it to
of.
be Julia.
Oh, really?
Yeah?
Yep. I just I just think it's time for Roxanne to come up.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. How about you, JC?
I was kind of gonna go toward Roxanne, but because I didn't know if they were going to two newbies just start into a match or something. They try to at least have a couple of more matches under their belts before they actually meet up. But I'm down for Julia versus Stephanie.
I would love to see that. And the couple things I've seen from Julia, that's going to be a spectacular match. And I cannot wait to see. And Jeremy's right. I think it is time for Roxanne to come up to the main roster.
Who do you
So
think
like,
when you say that, that brings in who you think she's gonna go? Who's gonna face her first, or who is her first feud going to be with if she goes up to the roster?
Ooh, good question.
And oh, it doesn't even go. Will she go to Raw or go to SmackDown?
SmackDown.
All right.
I think she ends up on SmackDown.
Yeah, I would say SmackDown I think would be the better fit for her. I'm not taking anything away from the women of Raw. They're all great talents as well. But I kind of see her first feud. If Bailey wins the title from Nia Jax, I would love to see Roxanne versus Bailey.
Okay.
That would be a good one, but I can't help but think that's not going to be the way it goes,
Oh yeah?
at least as far as Bailey winning the title.
Oh no.
I think a
Bubblehead,
certain
bleach
money in the
blonde,
bank
Barbie
holder.
wannabe.
Yep, there you
I
go.
was thinking
I
that
wanted you to be able
too.
to say that. Yeah, I wanted you to
I
get
was
it in.
kind of thinking that too.
But I still
Well,
am
you know what?
standing. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, you know what? We don't know if we're gonna be on before Bad Blood, so let's do some predictions.
Yeah, good idea.
I got
Let's
the card right in front of me.
All right, Jeremy,
All
if you
right.
want to do us, run down the card first and then we'll go by each match.
All right, we got Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns versus the Bloodline, which is likely the main event. We got CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre, Hell in a Cell. We got Liv versus Rhea with Dom in the cage. Um, Nia versus Bailey for the women's championship, and actually Liv versus Rhea is for the women's world championship, and then Damian versus Finn.
Is that for the title? Oh, sorry. My bad.
Damian versus Finn doesn't have a title involved.
I know I screwed up because I was still thinking Damien was the champ, and I forgot Gunther was the champ. No offense to Gunther.
Sami Zayn's
Um,
trying to get a title shot against Gunther.
yeah, and he's gonna keep trying, and he'll get it eventually. All right, so let's go with the first matchup. Last match you just mentioned, Finn Balor versus Damian Priest. Chances are that's probably gonna open the show. Um, oof. See, the thing is that I want both members of the Terror Twins to win, but I have a feeling this is going to be one of those moments where it's going to be either one or the other.
Yeah.
But then again, I've also been wrong, and I will admit I'm wrong. So personally, for me, I am going with bisexual Undertaker. Damian Priest for the win.
Wow.
Mm.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, I'm going with Damien because I mean he's already been in that position where he had the advantage, and then here come the other people coming in, but with everyone else being kind of occupied, I think this will be a perfect opportunity for Damien to get the upper hand on Finn.
Well, I mean, if it's the first match of the night, they're not necessarily going to be occupied.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, I think that this time they're gonna fail at trying to get at Damien. I just feel like they're not gonna. Yeah, I feel like they're gonna fail at trying to get at Damien. I mean, they'll probably get a few licks in, but bottom line, Damien gets his lick back from Finn. Mhm. So I mean,
Somebody's over there giggling like a schoolgirl. What the hell?
Look, I'm sorry, my mind just went elsewhere. So,
oh man, no.
I'm going with Damien as well, but under the premise of it being a split, or of it being a split night for him and Rhea.
Yeah.
all right, so let's go with the women's title match: Bailey versus Nia. Um, I do enjoy Nia Jax as a champion. I did enjoy her winning Queen of the Ring. However, I think Bailey, um, Bailey should get her title back, but only because I want to see the bubblehead bleach bomb Bobby wannabe bomb at her Money in the Bank cash in. Because as we saw on Friday night, Nia Jax was not happy with Tiffany Stratton in the back, so she could be
Say the
plotting.
least.
Yeah, so could be plotting to cash in on the championship match. So I'm gonna go with Bailey with the Tiffany failed cash in.
There you go. I will second that.
All right, JC, you're gonna be there live for it. Are you ready?
Oh, I was kind of y'all gonna hate me for this.
Oh Lord,
Yeah.
you know we can never hate you, but go ahead.
Nia retains, but I do agree with Tiffany bombing with her cash in, because Tiffany would think, okay, she's gotten beaten up enough by Bailey, she's tired, and then she's like, oh, let me go cash it in, but she doesn't realize, that ain't gonna keep Nia down. So I'm with y'all on the failed cash in, but I just seen Nia retaining.
All right, respect, no problem.
Uh, Bailey said on the SmackDown Lowdown, she said this, and I quote, "I'm excited for my gear, and I feel like I need to bring out some new moves." End quote.
Mm.
Wow,
Okay, so new gear, new title.
who's to say?
New arsenal. I mean,
Right.
that means she's gonna bring out a few new tricks.
Bailey has reinvented herself and it's worked out so well. And so this wouldn't be the first time she's done that. So I can't wait to see that. All right. So now we got the other women's title match. We have Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan, who's the champion, with Dominic Mysterio in a shark cage above the ring. JC?
All right. Uh,
Excuse me.
Rhea's gonna dominate the match, but shenanigans are gonna be at play, and Liv is gonna possibly retain. Because I think there's at least one more match between them before Liv eventually drops it back to Rhea. So I I see a couple of more. They may not for them. I think. Do you think they'll keep it long enough to go toward like WrestleMania, maybe?
I don't think they can get that far.
No, not with this feud.
Or at least till I don't know. Will they still have a day one?
I haven't heard anything about it.
I don't
We're
know,
also remember Triple H is cutting down on the shows.
right. But I just feel like there's gonna be at least one more match between Rhea and Liv before she drops it back to Rhea. So I kind of see, like I said, I see Rhea dominating the match, but something's gonna happen even with Dom in the cage. Oh Lord. And she's just not gonna get it back at Bad Blood.
Well, despite all of his rage, he's still just a rat in a cage.
Yeah, he is. Real quick to go back, I want to go back to the last one for a second. The Nia Bailey.
Mhm.
I did mention that I saw Bailey win, but I'm actually going against the idea of I don't think they're going to have Tiffy fail to cash in. I think she is going to cash in. I think at that point we get the breakup between her and Nia, and yeah. So, but as for this one, as for Liv and Rhea, I have a hard time also believing that Liv's going to lose the title here, and so I am going to go with Liv to retain by Dom shenanigans.
I think it's going to be the reverse. I think it's going to be Rhea winning thanks to Dom's shenanigans. He's going to try to do something as slippery as the snake that he is, and it's going to blow up in his face, and he's going to cost Liv the title. So that's what I'm going with. So going now, we step into Hell in a Cell. CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre. This feud has been bubbling over for months over a bracelet. But anyway, no, but it has been a feud that is we've seen this all year round. It's been these two just don't like each other. So now it's gonna settle it Hell in a Cell. This will probably be the final match between these two. And honestly, for me, as much as Drew has been roasting everybody on X and online and on the shows and stuff,
TikTok and Instagram.
yeah, you should see the latest tweet he just put out. Oh Lord, I'll let you guys read it. But I'd have to say for me, and this is gonna sound weird because I'm not really a big fan of his, but Punk's ending it. Punk is the one taking this one. I'm saying Punk is gonna bloody Drew up and take this match and win it.
Mm,
Jeremy?
I think that's I think that's how that goes. I think uh I think he beats the stuffing out of Drew, and that's it. The end of it.
All right, JC.
Nah, I'm gonna say Drew. I'm gonna
Really?
believe in Drew. I'm gonna believe in Drew. But no matter who wins the match, Punk is gonna be on top of the cage, and they're gonna have to wait until he's gonna be because that last time I saw him in a Hell in a Cell match, he ended up on the top of the cage, and he just was there.
Well, that
Everybody's
means that would have to be the main event.
well, I mean, you got to give us some time. He gonna be up there, so I'm just expecting that to happen. But I I know that everybody's gonna say Punk, but I'm just gonna go with Drew because yeah.
That's fine. It's not the first time we've been on opposite opinions, so it's perfectly fine. All right, and so now we get to the meat of the program, which is our main event. We have Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns versus the Bloodline. Which members of the Bloodline is it going to be? I know it's Solo Sikoa, but who's his partner?
Jacob, I think.
Yeah.
Jacob's the werewolf, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Samoan
And
werewolf.
Tama is the Tasmanian devil. That guy?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm still learning. Remember, they're bloodline from wish.com, so I'm still learning this. Okay.
Mhm.
So as we know from that incredible, spectacular promo from a couple weeks ago, Cody and Roman still have a lot of tension between them. Roman, of course, felt he lost everything after WrestleMania, and Cody has reminded him several times that it is his world title, it is his life now, and that he's the now one running SmackDown and WWE. To which Roman, is not happy with that and has reminded Cody that he will come back for what is his. Meanwhile, the Bloodline is doing everything they can to run Rampart in SmackDown. And this coming Friday, we're going to have a triple threat tag team title match to which the Bloodline will be defending the tag team titles against DIY and the Street Profits, I believe.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's also a deciding factor in what's going to happen on Saturday, since it's Tama and Jacob who are the tag team champions, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's going to be a deciding factor because Jacob is going to be pretty beat up from the ladder match to be tagging up with Solo the next night at Bad Blood. So with that being said, Stacy, who do you see taking this match?
It's gotta be Roman. I mean, but I do see a mishap between Roman and Cody happening, and Cody's gonna eat a spear. He's gonna,
Really?
yeah, I see that happening. Cody's gonna eat a spear at some point during this match, but Roman's gonna get the win. Or I mean, it could be he still eats the spear, and it's Cody that gets the win. But I just see that team winning, but Cody's gonna get a spear regardless of it.
All right, Jeremy, how about you?
I think Roman and Cody win it. And then but I think that, uh, well, no, I take that back. I take that back. I'm going the other way. I think the Bloodline win. I think Reigns then makes the challenge for a Bloodline Civil War, and that happens at Survivor Series.
Right?
I'd have to say that I'm also going with Cody and Roman for the win. And I do agree with JC. I do kind of see that in it, like what happened at WrestleMania between Rock and Roman. I do inadvertently see Roman accidentally giving Cody a spear, um, which will already cause more tension between them as it is. But we know that this is not, yeah, like Jeremy said, this is not going to end at Bad Blood. Chances are we are going to see Civil War at Survivor Series, and everyone knows that that's the one thing we're all looking for. This is just the stepping stone for that matchup. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how they work with this match and how they'll eventually have to team with other members for the Bad Blood. I mean, for the Survivor Series Civil War.
And also it will Survivor Series be the return of Jimmy Uso?
Yep. And congratulations to Jay on winning the Intercontinental Championship from Braun Breaker this past Monday. Totally well deserving of it. Only the second father son duo to win the Intercontinental Championship. We have Mr. Perfect who won it, and then we had Curtis Axel who won it. Then we have Rikishi who won it. Now we have Jey Uso who won it. So, and I think he's also the fifth member of the Samoan dynasty to win the Intercontinental Championship. So it's quite the accomplishment for that family. So congratulations to him. I can't wait to see how he defends it and how he goes out into the audience with that title. I would say the word, but I've been ordered by my children to never say that word again because apparently I say it very embarrassingly. So,
I do know that even I'm not sure if Jay's gonna be at Bad Blood, probably like a backstage mid segment or something. But I do know that earlier that day there is a meet and greet with Jey Uso. So
also, it was announced that Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, the women's tag team champions, are the hostesses of Bad Blood. So you get to see them. And we also saw the announcement from Cardi B to Bianca Belair that next year's SummerSlam will be at the MetLife Stadium. 2 nights,
nice.
August 1st and 2nd, I believe. But yeah, MetLife Stadium is not that far from me. It's only like a 4-hour drive. So if I wanted to, I could go. But since I'm going to WrestleMania, I don't think I'll be able to go. So unless I might as well make the announcement here. Unless my second book sells, I have just released my second book of poetry. It is available right now, Kindle edition only. Paperback edition will be available, I believe, October 1st. It is called From the Mind of the Prospect.
Nice. Congrats.
Thank you. So it's available on Kindle, so you can get it on Amazon. And once the paperback is available, I will share that link for you to purchase. So you can have a choice of 2 copies of my book. My first one, Finally Finding and Accepting Myself, poetry about who I am and what I've discovered. And then my second book of poetry, From the Mind of the Prospect. And there's a couple of poems about online friends dedicated to you two. So I hope you get a chance to check that out. All right. So with that being said, let's go down the line. Where can we find you on all the socials? JC, ladies first. We'll start with you.
Okay. Instagram, TikTok, and X at HardyCat1027.
All right, Jeremy.
Jeremy Moses 85 on the Twitter. And then I will be on the PW Boom podcast a week from Monday. 1 Central, 2 Eastern, pwaudio.net.
Very nice. All right. As I stated before, you can find copies of my 2 books on Amazon.com, both in Kindle and paperback format. Although the paperback version for my second book won't be available until probably October 1st. On social media, I am on Facebook, Square Circle Cafe, as well as the Summer Matthew Company. This show also be available on YouTube / that Daria chick, on Twitter, X, at that Daria chick, and the show is at SCC Podcast. I am also on TikTok at that Daria chick. Check out the Versace Stoner podcast, available on YouTube / VSW Podcast. He will also be at Beantown Wrestling Alliance this coming Thursday, as he said. So will I, with our vendor table, advertising the Square Circle Cafe. And you can also check out all the great action that he has on there. Like I said, I will send the link to YouTube for you to watch the Versace Stoner Indoctrination. It is quite a cinematic masterpiece. I absolutely love it. Also get a chance to check out all those other little shorts too. And he's not lying. His short of the JWO is actually at 765,000 views. So it's a little 8-second clip of the JWO walking in. So it's quite the number of views there. So get a chance to check that out. And also, JWO will be making an appearance at Cabba Wrestling on October 12th at the Dark Lady. They'll also have a Rocky Horror Picture Show drag show. So looking forward to that. And just announced today, October 13th will be our next AWL show. Once I get more details, I'll share that. So thank you everyone for joining us this week. Bad Blood this Saturday. If you see JC, say hi to her, drop her a line, representing the Square Circle Cafe at Bad Blood.
Mhm.
The Square Circle Cafe, for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.